Hey guys, this is Afro back again with another monologue. Judging by the title of this episode, you might think, isn't it a little late to make a video like this? Well, I had a little get together up north at the beginning of the year, and other things you don't really care about. Plus, the year is still relatively new, so yeah, I think I'm good. So yeah, another year has passed us, and now we're currently on the last year of this decade. That's freaky. But this is probably the part where I try to determine whether or not this was either a good or bad year, and I'll kinda do that, but not in the way others would. Because really, I feel as you get older, most years will be a mixed bag for you. Like, majority of the time they'll have a good amount of ups and downs, and that's kind of been the case for me this decade. I mean, 2013 was off to a pretty unsuccessful start, and even a scary moment of my life. But 2015 started out on an even worse note for me. And 2016, that was a year where a lot of bad and stressful things were happening all at once, both in general and in my own life. But even that still had its high cheerful memories, as all the other years before it. Some claim 2017 was a continuation of 2016, but I saw it more as the aftermath, with some improvements, both for me and in general. But what about 2018? How was this year for me? Well, in many aspects, it's probably my most successful year in a long time, mainly because I was able to achieve things I either couldn't before, or stuff I considered doing for a while, but wasn't able to until recently. For one, I finally got around to doing something with my YouTube channel by starting with this series of speed paints with me talking about whatever in the background, ending this big 5-year gap of inactivity that was creeping in my mind for years. The reason for that is mostly due to laziness, getting caught up with other things, and a fear I had involving things I dealt with back then. But now I've gotten a good grasp of video making that will hopefully stick with me for years to come. Sure, the videos I have now aren't that noteworthy or get the most views, thanks to YouTube, but hopefully that will change in the upcoming months. In terms of my college time, again, it's probably my most successful year since I started college. I managed to get 3 A's in a row, all of which are from a professor that I've had the best bond with. And his classes did lead to me making some really good bonds with some of my classmates, as well as taking fun class trips like to the LA Zoo, March Field, and Olvera Street in LA. It was also the year where I feel like I built upon the skills I discovered from the previous years were pushed to their fullest potential, and everyone around me seemed to have really noticed and liked all of them. Now, I wouldn't say it was fully perfect, with my intro to Dart class being pretty rocky at points, but that's not to say it was a total failure. I think I passed that one fine too, but I don't know what grade I got yet because for some reason it hasn't been submitted on my GPA yet. How odd. As for something like my anime watching, I managed to get all up to date with Dragon Ball Z Kai as well as the movies, leaving only GT, the more recent films like Resurrection and Battle of Gods, Super, and the most recent Broly film. Still a lot, but not too bad for someone who got into the franchise in 2017, don't you think? Though trying to complete this franchise has been my top priority ever since, meaning I haven't been able to watch that many other titles. Others I started include My Hero Academia, and I got back into the Railed X franchise with Index Season 3. I don't care if it's rushed like many fans are claiming it, but it's still good to see these characters in the world after what felt like a Steven Universe-like hiatus, but worse. There's also A Silent Voice, which has gone on to become both one of my favorite non-Ghibli anime films, as well as one of my favorite KyoAni works. But as I said, not every year will be without its low points, and the ones in 2018 in particular were pretty bad. YouTube in particular began and ended this year on pretty sour notes with Logan Paul acting like a tasteless moron in Japan, as well as Mumpky Jones getting terminated off the site. I wasn't the biggest fan of his work, but it still sucks to see someone's livelihood be taken away from them and seemingly being targeted by YouTube. It's just another example on how much this site has changed for the worse and how incompetent the management is over there. And speaking of incompetent websites, this marked the year that Channel Awesome and Doug Walker's reputations were tarnished and cemented with that big exodus left during springtime. I've already talked about this enough in a previous episode, so I won't try to repeat myself. But it's still sad that even though it's close to this controversy being a year old, Doug still refuses to speak up and address his response towards all the allegations, like he promised one guy on Twitter, instead continuing to make his movie reviews as if nothing was ever wrong, hoping people would move on to something else like Brad said. And the sad part is, it kinda worked. Business is still going strong and they managed to make a new audience to replace their old one. Not that it'll make me watch them ever again, especially since these are people I honestly should have quit a long time ago, given their quality in recent years. And I'm a little embarrassed that it's only till this scandal when I decided to stop watching them. But at the same time, there's something a little poetic to that. I recall when I discovered Nostalgia Critic, it was during the spring break of 2008, and his downfall along with Channel Awesome's happened roughly around the same time, 10 years later. It truly marked the end of an era. But if there's any credit that I'm still willing to give Doug and Rob, is that they, along with James Rolfe, managed to shape what internet reviewing would become today, laying out the blueprint that many other reviewers would use for their own content, and that includes the reviewers that I still like to this day. Now, I think these same people would go on to perfect it in recent years, but the Walkers still have that impact. And if it weren't for Doug Walker, I probably wouldn't have known about movies like The Room, or got a bit of my film knowledge from watching his reviews. I'm not really proud of that last part now, but it's true. But even with that, it's still best that we all move on from them, given what's been revealed. Though, I don't really like living in a timeline where Ace Salieri was right about something, but whatever. I have better things to keep up with. Though even with those two, this year in general seemed like the year of controversy, with many YouTubers taking a hit with their reputations getting tarnished. Many YouTubers that decided to get political in their videos when it was unnecessary, as seen with Jello Apocalypse and Quentin Reviews. Which I find to be a shame, for I really like Jello's content, and Quentin seemed like the next big YouTuber to really keep an eye on. But I guess his 15 minutes of fame went to his head and decided to shove his political views down our throats and act pretty cocky and arrogant in the process. And this is why I'm not the political type. As much as we comment on 2016 having so many deaths, really, we can't go every year without people passing on. And the latter half of 2018 was when it felt like 2016 all over again. And no disrespect to those who left us in 2016, but the figures we lost like Stan Lee and Steven Hillenburg were perhaps the biggest hard hitters for me in recent memory. If you want to hear about my piece about Hillenburg and his legacy, you can watch my tribute to the guy in the description below. But I feel now's a good time to talk about how Stan Lee impacted me personally. Here was a man who took the superhero standards set by DC and the Golden Age as a whole, and in many ways perfected them, giving us some of the most legendary, iconic superheroes of all time. While I wasn't really into superheroes much as a kid, it was a genre that I would gradually learn to appreciate as I got older and more open to various things. And the likes of the Avengers, Spider-Man, and the Guardians of the Galaxy have been major highlights of my young adult years. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe would quickly become my Star Wars, and gave some of the best superhero films of this century. As well as Marvel Studios being kind of the Pixar of this decade, where every film has a consistent quality and was a huge event. As much as a lot of us wanted him to be around just a little while longer, his age really was showing. But at least he left the world feeling a little better for being there, and will always have his legacy to have his name live on. Plus, this was perhaps Marvel's biggest year yet, with Avengers Infinity War and Black Panther breaking tons of records and having a significant impact on superhero films as a whole. Plus, Spider-Man had what was essentially a golden age for him, with his roles in said Infinity War, his PS4 game, and of course, Into the Spider-Verse, which is in my opinion the best animated film of the year for me. But that's not to say DC didn't have its time to shine. Aside from Henry Cavill's possible departure from Superman, the DCEU managed to have another genuine hit with Aquaman, being the first billion-dollar movie for them since The Dark Knight Rises. Even if it's not the greatest superhero film, even for DC standards, I think its success makes it very important. For one, it's the film to follow up the failure that was Justice League, and the success of Aquaman should make Warner Brothers realize, right, this is what people really want from us. And this will potentially pave the way for a brighter future for the DC Universe, and they can finally be legit healthy competition for Marvel. But with Shazam, Birds of Prey, and Wonder Woman 84 on the horizon, I'm pretty confident that will be the case. So judging by all I said, 2018 as a whole was a pretty good year for me, for all that I've accomplished both online and in my art education, which is more than I could say for previous years for me. Though, I know the same can't be said for other people, and thought 2018 was a bad year for them personally, particularly those who are close to me. And for that, they have my sympathy, and hopefully 2019 will be a better year for not just me, but for them in general. As for resolutions I have for this year, well, for one, I would like to expand my video making. As much as I enjoy doing the Afro Monologues, I don't want them to be the only content I make, especially since after this video, I only have 2 more concrete topics I would like to talk about for future episodes. Though most importantly, I do have other video ideas that I would like to do. For one, I'm hoping I could make a reaction video to the second Shazam trailer, whenever that will be, and I would like to do a video talking about Railgun Season 3, and speculate how the new season will play out. Like, which story arcs and story material will they use to fill out the runtime? Also, I'm still planning to do that series where I look back and riff on my old crossover fanfics, which I think I'll just call Afro Riffs, which was a name thought up by a friend on DA, but I have to figure out how the trailer will play out. And last but not least, when I get around to that part of the franchise, I'm thinking of doing a vlog type series where I go over all the episodes of Dragon Ball Super, mainly because it could be a fun, if not ambitious project for me as a former noob of the franchise, and again, it could make for good video material. So with all that said, I do have plenty of ideas for videos I could hopefully do. Now I just have to commit to them, which sounds easier said than done. If you are one of the few devout subscribers, you might notice that there have been long gaps in between many of my videos. Well, a lot of that has to do with college eating up a lot of my time, and this year in particular was a year where my classes gave me so much work to do, which meant I wasn't able to make many videos in my spare time. Now, in terms of my spring semester, both of the classes I'm taking are at night and once a week. But from what I hear, one of them will have you draw so much, being a storyboarding class. I mean, it will most likely be helpful for me for my dream career, but the workload might be a lot to handle. But again, it's still once a week, so I'll try my best to use my spare time wisely. But I'm sorry to say that this might not be the only hurdle to my plans. You see, for most of my videos, I've been using Windows Movie Maker for my monologues, and many would agree that's a pretty primitive video making source. But I still think it's good for beginners, though I still would like to move on and involve with bigger softwares. I managed to kinda do that with VSDC Video Maker, but I would like to try HitFilm as well. There's just one problem. My computer doesn't have that much memory to handle the system, which, yeah, maybe the PC I got to replace my old Mac Mini wasn't the most powerful I could have gotten, but what's done is done. But I am thinking of seeing if I could try to install more memory for my computer, so that could hopefully have it be more powerful to work with memory-reliant softwares. Or better yet, I could record my drawing process without closing programs like Google Chrome. That way, I could hopefully do some live streams on my channel, like some of my friends do. So, if you're a newcomer to this channel, don't expect a fixed schedule for my videos, but feel free to wish me luck in getting these things fulfilled. There are other resolutions I have, like trying to do commissions and complete the rest of the Dragon Ball franchise, but they aren't really related to me trying to do things for my YouTube channel, but hopefully I'll be able to get them done. So as a whole, while it had low points like many years, I still consider 2018 a pretty good year for me, for all I accomplished and more. But here's hoping 2019 will be even better. I'll admit there are times where I think starting a new year can be a little scary, especially if it's the final year of the decade. But with all the great things coming out this year, and me finishing my art certificate, potentially, I think we'll at least end the 2010s on a pretty high note. But what about you guys? How was 2018 for you? And what are your resolutions? Be sure to share in the comments below if you like, but also hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and stay tuned for more stuff because I make videos whenever I have the time. This is Afro Otaku, and I'll catch you all later. Bye! But seriously, please leave a like and comment because I could really use the support.